Ms. Gekas?
Well, as you stated, I am in support of shutting down Vermont Yankee, and I want to make sure that we're talking about this also in terms of, we talk a lot about retiring the plant on time. The plant was scheduled and commissioned to run it for a certain length of time, and so what the state is trying to do, and has been trying to do, is retire that plant as scheduled. I think that there have been serious concerns about the plant's reliability. I think Entergy has certainly proven themselves to be what many would consider a dishonest partner in this, and that the state, I'm in full support of us continuing to do everything that we can to enforce the decision of the legislature not to give them that certificate of public good to keep operating. I think it's also important to note that when the power of that decision was placed in the hands of the legislature, it was something that even Entergy supported at the time. So the legislature was exercising authority that they had by law and the parties had agreed to. Going forward as Lieutenant Governor, not only would I continue to support the state's efforts to follow this case legally, but I think we need to do a lot more to look at also decommissioning and what is going to happen when that plant shuts down, regardless of how long it's going to operate, and that's going to be a huge cost, $900 million. Entergy right now has a plan. The plan that they want to use would take 60 years before that plant would be fully decommissioned, and that's a huge concern, and we don't want those costs to fall on the backs of Vermonters.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Ms. Gekas, a fundraising letter, a letter associated with your campaign from Ben and Jerry's founder, Jerry Greenfield, has come out and stated that Mr. Scott is against gay marriage and also pro-life. Do you stand by that letter today?
So I would love to clarify this. I think that looking at that letter, the language that we used in it was too strong, and I take full responsibility for that on our campaign. I do think that with the issue of choice in particular, I do have some concerns. And when I look at what's going on the national level around women's health and women's right to choose, I think that it's a big problem. There's a concerted effort to roll back Roe v. Wade and 60 to 70 years of progress that we've made on women's health and control over their own bodies. The Lieutenant Governor has stated that he's pro-choice, but with significant restrictions. And those restrictions that he supports are part of a larger platform and an effort across the country to limit access to abortion services. And it's part of a concerted effort to roll back Roe v. Wade piece by piece. And so what I have a take issue with is saying to somebody that I am pro-choice, but as long as it happens within this realm that, I consider okay. And if it's a woman's body and a woman's right to choose, then you have to stand by that. And for me, I am unequivocal about that. It is a woman's body, it is a right to choose, she should have that choice. That is the current law, and there's absolutely nothing in my platform or that I would support to restrict access to a woman's right to choose, and I think that is a point that is a big point of distinguishment between myself and my opponent.
Before you answer, so Mr. Scott has stated in the past that he is in support of parental notification. Just so I'm clear, you would not support a bill that would allow for parental notification of minors getting an abortion?
Yeah, I would not support that. I have worked on the ground. I've worked with young women who are victims of abuse from families, who are trying to run away from domestic violence. I mean, this is a privacy issue for young women, and I don't want them to be put in a position where their lives or livelihood or family life is in danger, and that's what I've seen on the ground in clinics. And the other points that I'll just make, there's parental notification. There's a ban on partial birth abortions. There's a fetal homicide law and a prohibition, which is I think the most important point, a prohibition on federal funding for abortion services, which is the big debate at the national level around Planned Parenthood and whether Planned Parenthood should be funded or not. So all those four pieces, it's my understanding from reading my opponent's platform and response to Planned Parenthood questionnaires that those are four restrictions that he supports.
Mr. Scott.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Cassandra for clarifying the letter. I was admittedly a bit disappointed when I read that and thought it was filled with misinformation. And it was just reminded me of what happens in D.C., that we have this divisiveness and it's played by both sides, both parties, in terms of they keep repeating inaccuracies in order for people to start believing. And I thought that was unfortunate. So I thank her for clarifying the letter. In terms of the gay marriage issue, it wasn't popular when I voted in favor of that. I had many friends and family that didn't understand, but we've moved on and they started talking to me again. So I've been an independent voice for a lot of different things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm part of a national platform. I'm part of a Vermont platform, and I try and make decisions based on what I'm feeling, what I think majority of Vermonters feel as I get around and talk with folks. When I decided this was the parental notification issue came up back in, I think it was 04 or 05, and I was supportive of that then because I have two daughters, and they were both young then. They're grown up now. Very proud to have two beautiful daughters in their 20s now. But my reaction was not as a way to tell them what to do, but I wanted to know what was going on in their life, and I wanted to be there to support them and help them through what would, if something like that arose, that I would be there to be supportive and help them through what has to be a significant ordeal. And so that was why I supported it.
Just so I'm clear, you would support it still today?
Yeah, I mean, there was a number of restrictions, and again, I think it's good, healthy debate. When you talk about, we're not talking about a woman's right to choose, we're talking about minors, we're talking about children, and that's a big difference in my mind, that we're parents. You know, when you have, I know with myself, I don't think you ever stop being a parent, by the way. I thought when they turned 18 that that would be about it, but I found that continues throughout life. And you want to help your kids. You want them to succeed. You want to help them through their ordeals. And that's something, when you talk about a minor, you want to be a parent, and that's your first reaction.
Anything you want to add to that?
I would say that I absolutely agree that it's important that parents are there for their children, and it is certainly for many people a life-changing and a very difficult choice to make and an event to go through. I just do not believe that it is the state's job to legislate that relationship between the parent and their children. If you have a relationship with your children that is positive, where they feel like they can speak to you, then you don't need a law to tell you, to mandate that they let you know. So that's something that I think is absolutely between a parent and their children. And for a minor or 17-year-old who's in a situation with their family that they feel like they cannot be honest with them, you know, that young woman has other people that she can rely on. And fundamentally, this is about choice. And is it the woman's or the young woman's right to choose whether or not she will carry that pregnancy to term? And that is the standing law, that it is a woman's choice and she has control over her body. And so the most important thing to me, especially given what's happening across the country, is that we do everything we can to protect that right to choose. And there's a very valid, I think, slippery slope argument to this as well. So what I'm trying to do is simply hold ground on current law in Vermont and current law in the country at a time when there are many, many people who are trying to roll that back.
Portion of our program today brought to you by the folks at Jet Service Envelope. For envelopes, letterhead, and printing needs, please call them at 229-9335. You'll find them on the web at jetservice-envelope.com. We're broadcasting live this morning from the Tunbridge World's Fair. We're here at the Northfield Savings Bank Broadcast Center gazebo. We'll be back right after these important announcements.